I want to know if people feel any differently or better about the health of this regime and this program right now after the win over the Giants. And we can open up the phones on this at 800 636 1067, 800 636 1067. And if the answer is no, that's fine. Would it also be no if they beat the Eagles? Like, are we just at a point this season where you've seen enough bad and enough problem area stuff that you have filed, whether it's the front office, the coaching staff, the roster, or all three, into a category of now not being sure? If they go out against a superior Philadelphia team, way better than the Giants, and they beat an Eagles team, let's say, that plays well, when they play an inspired game, see the Broncos match up last time they were at home, would that make you feel better about the state of the union for this team? Because I know the Vikings game did a lot to take us in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
31-0 shutout's going to do that. But they played the Broncos, 1-point game, really, really close. It was a much, much better football game. Remember, they were doing their victory lap. We found ourselves. We lost the game, but we're not lost anymore. Then you get blown out 31-0. You will have had the Broncos game, the Vikings shutout, and then back-to-back wins if you beat Philadelphia. Would it start to affect how you feel overall about the health of the program? Whether this thing's rotten, whether you open the fridge and it smells, whether there's still some bones worth saving here. 800-636-1067.
So for me, the way that it's gone, I don't feel better, and I'll explain why. It's not just reflexive, like, no, screw these people. They lost a lot. I don't care anymore. It's not that. Hear me out. What was Joe Gibbs and his staff the most famous for? Right? Now, historically, as we look back, it was, he won the Super Bowls with 3 different quarterbacks and the offensive line and this and that. It became almost mythical, even to the point that it might have been overhyped and overstated. But it was always known among the fan base that the adjustments, they were going to make those halftime adjustments. Who knows how real that was or wasn't? It worked a lot. There was always something different, always a new plan. I don't see this group adjusting. I don't see quarterbacks under center. I don't see different personnel. I don't see anything different. I don't see a trade from the front office at the trade deadline
to
grab some draft
defensively.
Capital.
If you look at man and zone, if you look at it's a different play caller.
Well, that's where I was going to go.
But that too in his adjustment. They made that change.
It took the worst stretch in the last decade plus of the league for Dan Quinn to finally begrudgingly do something a little bit different, and it was to change Joe Witt's seat. That's it. They don't fix things. They're not fixers. They're not getting with the program. They're not doing anything different. Again, I keep saying the same thing. It's the same personnel groupings, the same playing time, the same ratios, the same 20% snap count for Jordan McGee, the same no targets for Ben Sinnott, the same whatever. You just keep sending them up. And they were good enough this time to beat one of the 2 worst teams in football, barely despite their own mistakes. If they do a bunch of things differently, and it'll be hard to quantify in the moment, but if we get to look at now target shares and go through some of the film with people that are smarter than me that can tell me, hey, this one was for Ben Sinnott. This look was for name this young player. This was for Traylon Burks or whatever. Or Tyler Owens played way more than he has, got more responsibility. And Jordan McGee wore the green dot for 3 possessions. If we do more of that stuff and they beat Philly, okay, that means something to me. The same dudes doing the same thing that brought you 3-10, that's where I don't feel any better. And that was my story after the game. It's my story now.
So maybe this is a semantics argument or point I'm making, but you're explaining to me like how you would be happier with this staff. And maybe that is what I'm asking. It's certainly not what I'm trying to, though. I'm trying to say in the bigger picture, like with how far away they are, with how quickly they can turn things around, with how much you trust Adam Peters.
Yeah, and that's at the core of this for me. Yeah.
With how much you feel good about this coaching staff. And for you, maybe it's usage is a big part of that in terms of who they're going to implement for those 4 or 5 extra snaps or those 1 or 2 extra opportunities. But I don't feel any better or differently in the grand scheme of things after a win over the Giants than I did going in, to answer the question I'm asking. And my answer to that, or reason for that, would be it was a Marcus Mariota-led win. Had Jaden Daniels been out there playing the same game Mariota did or close to it, running for 40 yards, making the big throw late to Terry McLaurin, I would have felt a lot better about the state of the union and just the grand scheme of the operation. what I'm calling the health of the program, because he will have shown this growth. But now, as Barry Svrluga wrote in his column, we talked about it on the show yesterday with him. If you missed that interview, you can podcast it wherever you get your audio. We don't get a chance for any of those steps forward. As I'm spitballing out loud here, does that mean that other things benefiting the future, other young guys excelling, like I'm just going to dismiss them because Jaden Daniels isn't out there? I don't think so. But I feel better about Bill than I did going into the game. He's an important piece going forward. I already liked Jalen Lane a lot, but I feel better about him coming out of the game than I did going in. I think he's a building block for the future. I feel better about Mikey Sanders still than I did. So in these little spots, I'm more excited about the future. But in the grand scheme of things, if we're talking front office decisions, where Ben Sinnott got 1 target, 1 catch as a second-round pick without Ertz, I don't feel better about that. Johnny Newton, Brandon Coleman got on the field, played at a very solid level as he always does, but still can't crack the rotation at this point. Like, those are some of the things I'm looking at in terms of the bigger picture health of this thing.
Yeah, which I think we're feeding out of the same trough.
And
them. It's still 11 penalties this late into the season with the same veterans that they keep trotting out there. And that's kind of my big picture point here is where is the change? Where's my improvement? Where's my something different? And it's not. It's sort of the same deal. Just keep beating our head against the wall. And there's something to be said for loyalty, right? Where we're going to go with the guys that brung us. Well, those guys brought you here. Now you're 4-10. Congrats. I don't feel great about the program.
where did they bring you exactly?
Yeah, they brought you to a terrible place that everyone's going to be replaced.
To an abandoned parking lot
Yeah.
at a strip mall where a bunch of things have been foreclosed on?
Well, every light out. Yeah, it's a terrible spot.
Okay, but so then let me ask the same question.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I don't need to ask you because all you care about is, does Traylon Burks get targets? Does Ben Sinnott catch passes? Does Johnny Newton get a sack?
Those are examples of my
Exactly.
general feeling, yeah.
But from a results standpoint, if they go out with McLaurin, I understand this will be frustrating, and with some of the veterans, and they keep chopping wood with Bobby Wagner and Frankie Louvu at linebacker and whatever, and they now elevate their game and outplay the Eagles, who are trying to win a division,
Right.
division on the line. I do think that would absolutely make me feel better about the health of the program. They do not have a good win yet on their resume. Zippy.
Chargers is a good win. No? Isn't that a good win? They're 10-4.
When they played them, I don't think that was that good of a win.
I agree with you. That wasn't the best Chargers team, but
Their offensive line in that game
was bad.
was decimated.
It was very bad.
It was Justin Herbert and the Island of Misfit Toys. I'll say it was an okay win based on the fact that they've turned into a really good team. But the week before they played Washington, the Giants beat them.
Yep.
The Giants have 2 wins this year.
Mm-hmm.
The Giants are god-awful.
Yep.
They beat the Chargers days before Washington did, just to give you a state of how bad things had gotten with all their injuries. So I'm not going to call that a good win, but it's better, right? But their wins are essentially Giants and Raiders.
Yep.
And a super injured Chargers team. You beat Philly. That's your best win in the regular season,
By a lot.
probably in 2 years. Even last year, they didn't beat winning teams. They beat Philadelphia, the one win against a winning team last year. But Hurts got hurt when they were up 14-0 and moving to go up 21-0. And then they beat Kenny Pickett, who just got shut out by the Eagles and lost 31-0. So if you're kind of actually looking at context, I think you could make the case that would be their most surprising win over 2 seasons.
I think so.
And for that reason, I would feel a lot better about where they're at, because it would just be an indicator of the bones in that building are strong. You got to rearrange a bunch of things, but you've got a foundation. Like if you tear it down to the studs, you don't have to rebuild the foundation. If they can actually beat some good teams and show they're not going to check out. The Raiders didn't get off the bus. That's a fire everybody game for me. Now you could say, well, Washington had one of those a week earlier, and it's true. And had they have had 1 or 2 more of those, that might have been the narrative around here. But when that game happened and you got where they just didn't want to be in the snow and didn't want to deal with Philadelphia, it makes you start questioning things like we were doing last week.
Mm-hmm.
Are they listening to Dan Quinn? Do they care about Dan Quinn being the coach of the team? And then their answer pretty resoundingly was yes. So now we get another folder to put away in the file cabinet this week.
Yeah, so I think I had my everything's on the table, everything should be discussed and reviewed when they lost those 4 games by 100 points. Like, you know what I mean? Like, to me, like, I already crossed that point. Like, we had our Raiders shutout game, or Minnesota Viking, and that just, like, doubled down on it for me. But that stretch was so inexcusable. The other games where you lost to Miami, you lost to Denver, you played much better, and you were just a normal weekly loss that happens. Teams that are picking in the top 5 lose like that all the time. But the fact that it was so bad for 4 straight games is so inexcusable and should not be glossed over by any kind of later performance. I guess that's sort of where I am there. Like they never got off the bus 4 times already.
Nobody has stretches like that.
Nobody does.
You're not allowed to, basically.
Right.
And if you do, then I don't need to necessarily fire everybody, but I could.
Right.
It's that bad. So let's pose that question to you guys next. 800-636-1067. So I'm saying no, I'm not feeling better about the health of the program after the Giants win, but a win over the Eagles would absolutely put me in a better place in the big picture, that you've got the right people in the right places at the high levels, front office, coaching staff, to get this thing squared away.
No for me, with the caveat that if everything looks different, if timeouts are correct, they're getting out of huddles and don't commit 11 penalties, aren't sloppy, and are able to actually play really well with some of their younger pieces involved too, it'll show me that there's something getting through to these guys and there's been something different. An adjustment has been made. I'll be more excited then.